Hi, welcome to Accelerated Engineering. This is the tutorial on the LOOKUP family of functions, and a related bit of humor at the end. If you were looking for a tutorial on a different function, let me know in the comments so that I can get right on that. So the LOOKUP function, or family of functions, has been used to collect associated pieces of data for, pretty much since the beginning of Excel. The original lookup function is antiquated and has been in use for well over 30 years, with its new counterparts, VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, coming onto the scene 33 years ago, back in the 1990s. And then XLOOKUP is the newest, biggest, and best version of the lookup family of functions. But we'll start with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, and then move on to XLOOKUP at the end. I've generated this table of data just for funsies, although if you recognize the names, you're privy to the inside joke. It's just a little bit of table data that you might find in a employee database. The head story that I'm going with is these are the 7 brothers that I've hired to do some work on my farm. I pay them different, they do different things, they got different birth dates. I don't pay some of them benefits because, the youngest one here, he doesn't work as much as all the others, so he's out. But it's important in my organization that we celebrate birthdays. And I want to have a function that is able to look up, based on a name, go and find when their birthday is. And I don't want to have to reference the table every time. What I'm going to use for that in this case, with the data laid out in this manner, is the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. And if we pull up this formula here, it says, well, I need a lookup value, a table array, and a column index number. So for the lookup value, it's the first value that we're looking for. In this case, the name, Caleb. The second piece of information is the table array. And what it's asking for here is to select all of the data that is included that might contain information I want. The important part of this is that the value I'm looking for, Caleb, must appear in the leftmost column of my data table, or of my table array. That is important. It has to be that way. It's one of the limitations of VLOOKUP. And then the column index number just says which column of the table contains the data that you want returned. In this case, 1, 2, date of birth is in the second column, so I'll type 2, close it off, and there we go. It says that Caleb's birthday is on June the 6th, 1956, and indeed, there it is, just what we expected. Now I can go back, and if I want to check for somebody else, Adam, let's just expand that a little bit. Adam was born January 1st, 1950. That looks correct. And Gideon, there you go. So everything is in order. This function is operating perfectly. Let's take a look at HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP is kind of the janky younger brother of VLOOKUP. It's rarely used because it requires data to be laid out in a weird way. When you need it, it's useful. When you don't need it, it's not great. For this one, I've just turned my data table right over on its side. Same data, new orientation. Let's say that now I'm interested in finding both the birthday and the benefits, whether or not somebody's getting paid benefits. I'll put a name in here, the first person that I'm looking at, and now I'll use the HLOOKUP function, complete with tab. Now it looks like it's all the same type of information except it's rows instead of columns. My lookup value, again, is the location of the name. My table array is where all my data is. And again, the value that I'm looking for must be in the top row of the table array in order for HLOOKUP to function properly. And then my row index for birthday, I want to return date of birth, so we're going to call that 2. Close it off. And oh, that's a funny number. That's just a formatting issue. Change the format over to a long date, and there we go. Adam, born January 1st, 1950. No problem. Now what about benefits? It'd be nice if I didn't have to type that formula again. So what I'm going to do is say, you know what if I just click and drag it and we'll do some modifications. And you can do this with VLOOKUP as well. It's just important to look into here and go, well, what changed? Because Excel was trying to be smart. So what changed is now, oh, it messed up my lookup value. So let's fix that first of all. Don't look for K4, look for K3. And then I can see, it actually messed up my my table array values as well. My whole table has shifted down. That's no good. So we'll change that manually and change that manually. This is not the easy way to do it. It's just the way we're going to do it right now. And there, that's fixed. And it looks up the birthday. Well, I didn't want birthday, I wanted benefits. So let's see, I'll have to replace that 2 to look for a different row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6, and there's my benefits. It says Adam gets benefits. If we do that again, let's just check with Frank. Frank also gets benefits, birthday February the 2nd. Now, in case you were wondering, there was an easier way to do that click and drag. If I had taken the time in my first formula to lock my references, said I'm not going to change where the name of the person I'm looking for is, so I'm going to insert $signs, which locks the references, so Excel knows not to change it all throughout, then it would work better. Only better, again, it still goes looking for the birthday, and I would have to just edit the one value in order to get the new thing that I was interested in. So that's HLOOKUP in general. Now for the grandpappy of them, XLOOKUP. I formatted this table just a little bit more nicely. It's just because. So let's do the same thing. We're looking for Adam. Well, here, I'll format this nicely. Here's the name, and we're interested in finding the birthday. Well, for using XLOOKUP, it asks for different things. Lookup value is still the same. That's still the value that I'm interested in right there. Lookup array, this is different. What this is asking for is just the column that contains the data I'm looking for. The return array, this is instead of having to highlight the whole table. The return array just says, well, what do you want? Well, we want dates of birth, so I'll just highlight that, close the parentheses, and I get the time code format. So we'll just change that to a long date. There we go. And I get exactly what I asked for. You say, hey, John, this does exactly the same thing as the VLOOKUP. Well, yes, but there's a little bit more oomph behind it. Because that reference is loaded as a return array instead of the whole table, it means that now I can say, hey, don't look for the name. Instead, go and look for my, we can look for values that are on the opposite sides of the data that we want. So for example, let's say that I wanted to know what the salary was for a given job. Actually, that's a bad example because the data is still arranged the other way. Let's look instead for a salary and what job you would need to have in order to get that. So let's say we want a salary, start with an easy one, salary of 50. What's the job title that you would need to hold in order to get that? Well, let's use my XLOOKUP function here. My lookup value is going to be somewhere in the salary column. My lookup array is on the left-hand side of the salary column. See, this is better than VLOOKUP. I don't have to rearrange my entire table in order to get this going. Oh, pardon me. I've gibbled that up. My lookup value is salary, then the comma. Then my lookup array is salary, column, and then the return array is over here in the job title. There we go. Close that off, and indeed it tells me that in order to make 50, you got to be a foreman. Now the first one it returns for 25, it says, hey, if you want to be 25, Cowherd is an option. Not the only option, it's an option. Now let's go back to the name example again, and benefits. one of the neat things with XLOOKUP is that you don't have to look up just one thing. I can look up Adam and Ephraim and Frank, say. And I'll do an XLOOKUP for these guys. I want to see what their benefits are looking like, whether or not they get them. So my lookup value is actually going to be all three of these. I want to find everything. My lookup array is still in the names, and my return array is going to be in the benefits. Let's just see what we get here. Oh, all these guys get benefits. That's kind of nifty. Who doesn't? Daniel. Daniel doesn't get benefits. Let's poke his name in here and just make sure that it's updating properly. And indeed, it is. So that's a nifty trick for using XLOOKUP. Now, we can actually do this even one better. We can do an even more comfortable way. Because, for example, if we add another name here with additional information, let's just say Jan 1st, 1970. And they're the baby of the family. They're in the farming department still. Do they make money? Sure. Yeah, you know what? Why not? 25, no benefits, and we'll make up a contact number for them. Now the problem is I can't just go in here and add my my new value because, well, this isn't looking in the right range. Now I can go back and expand the range, but that's, it takes time. I'm lazy. The whole point of this is to do things quickly and easily, not to go back and manually manipulate things every time. So we'll just pop this value off down here for now. What I'm going to do instead is highlight all of my data table and convert it into a proper table. Excel recognizes this as nicely formatted information. If I make it a table, it will recognize it as a special collection of data. The data range is correct, and yes, my table has headers. Okay. Now you can see right away, Excel has added the ability to sort and filter all of my data. If I wanted to only look at a particular subset, I can do that now. But that's not the point of this particular video. What is useful about the table is that when I begin adding additional information, Excel recognizes that there was new information added to the table, and see, it automatically picked up that there was now going to be data available. It changed, or it grew the range with the table. If I say that instead of this benefits maybe pops up. So tables with XLOOKUPs are the best. Now, in case you're worried about these references slipping or sliding around, there's actually an even more definite way of selecting these, and that would be to replace it with the column name of the table. See, Excel replaces it. This is table 2 and the name column. And I'm going to do the same thing with the benefits in this case. Replace it with the whole column there. And that will always be locked to the table and won't change or slide around or get all messed up. XLOOKUP is the strongest and most powerful, and when combined with Excel's tables, it is an absolute powerhouse for retrieving any data that you're looking for contained within the table. And this concludes the tutorial. If you're still here, you must now endure the joke. That is the rules. XLOOKUP is always worthwhile. Looking up your X never is. Okay, it's not a joke. It's just good and slightly funny advice. And if that humor didn't scare you off, consider subscribing for more content like this. Thanks for watching.